Hey out there, it's Nicole Catherine Smith with Nicole Catherine Studios on the She Spark podcast. Today I have a special guest, Kim Wessinger.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Kim?
I'm good.
Good to have you
Happy to
here.
be here. Happy to be here with you.
We haven't connected in so long.
I know.
I miss you.
I know, right? But it always feels like we've seen it, like, even though we haven't spent a lot of time together lately, I always feel like we pick right back up where we left off.
Absolutely.
Always.
And this one is funny, so just prepare yourselves.
Oh,
She's
boy.
got that southern charm and a great sense of humor.
Oh.
So why don't we start off, Kim, with just you telling us a little bit about what you do and how you got started?
Gosh, how much time do we have? No, I'm kidding. Well, let's see. So the first thing is, like, this year, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm about to be 50.
Woohoo!
That's crazy. Because I don't feel 50.
You don't look 50.
So when I say I've been in the fragrance industry for 25 years, then it makes sense, to me logically, but I just go, has it really been 25 years at this point? But it really has, which is wild. And I've done it all. I've been behind the scenes. I've been a rep. I've had stores. I've had, multiple stores. I've had fragrance lines. I've worked in fragrance. I've worked for corporate fragrance brands, huge companies. But it just, I don't know, those 25 years went fast because it feels like I just started yesterday. I can remember being that 25-year-old kid, getting so into fragrance and, but not really realizing where that was going to take me all these years later.
Yeah.
So it's wild.
It's
weird.
amazing.
It's weird. It goes fast. It goes fast. You wake up, whoops, I'm 50. What happened? Wait, reel that back down. Rewind.
Well, I might add that Kim is a female entrepreneur and she specializes in fragrance, which is so complex and it's such a subculture, if you will. And I relate it to almost like a wine sommelier, where they learn about the palate and the scents and the all the taste and the nuances. It's very similar to that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens is over time, you really your brain gets trained to pick out those nuances. So I used to, when I had my store, and I haven't done this in a while, but when I had my store, I could have people test me. Like they would bring me a candle or they'd blindfold me and put candles in front of me, and I would be able to tell them exactly what brand it was, what was in there, everything. Like you could not stump me. It was a fun game. So, but yeah, it's definitely like being a sommelier, very much so. All the layers and the blending and all of that. It's definitely an art, and it's not for everybody, because have you ever been smelling fragrances before and your brain just shuts off, after
Overload. Yeah.
Overload, and it usually happens within the first 3 or 4 fragrances, right? So when you've been doing this for 25 years, that never shuts off.
Wow.
Ever. So that olfactory overload, which is what it's called, it doesn't turn off anymore, which is a great thing for when I'm working and a really bad thing for when I'm not. So any little smell, I'm like, what is that? Wait, stop. No, wait. And then all the windows start flying open. Doesn't matter if we're, here in Arizona and if it's 120 degrees, windows open, AC's cranking, all the ceiling fans. I drive people in my house a little nuts. And it's just... It's bad, but I can't. It's like it's a gift to have it not turn off, so that I can really pick out all those, all those neat nuances and notes and layers. But when it just comes to everyday smells, I'm like, wait, no, that's not the Amazon truck. That's the UPS truck. I mean, it's bad. When you tell the difference in gasoline, I mean, it's bad, but it's just part of everyday life at this point.
Oh, you crack me up. So why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the defining moment that got you into this business, and then let's jump forward to today. So all of this experience you've had in the past and how it's brought you to this point today.
So I think that where it really started for me was I have to go all the way back to high school and think about there was something within all my art classes when I was taking a bunch of art and theater and you know, even like speech and debate and all that stuff. It's kind of all wrapped into one. It's very artistic, right? But I got interested in packaging, and I have no idea why. Who knows why? That's the most boring thing on the planet, right? Oh, yay, what gets it for you? Packaging. So I don't know. But I would sketch in art class. I would sketch boxes, and I would sketch, you know, bottles and just anything. They'd be like, oh, okay, well, so the assignment this week is to sketch this person. And I'm like, nope, here's another box. You know, stickers, labels, whatever. I don't know. That's just sort of where it started for me, was loving packaging and really wishing that packaging was more interesting. And I always thought, well, maybe I'm going to take this somewhere one day. I'm going to be a world famous designer for some big cosmetic company or something. I'm going to innovate their packaging and change it. But I think that's really what the catalyst was for me, is somehow not, I don't even remember what it was, but starting there. Right. And then getting really interesting, like the advent, the dawn of the fragrance moment was when White Barn Candle and Bath and Body Works started, you know, like in the 90s, right? That whole thing. And me just getting obsessed, going into those stores all the time and sniffing and sniffing and sniffing and sniffing and buying, and then but wanting the packaging to look better or be more shoppable. And then it's just that natural progression into all of the stores that started to come about because of that. And then the more you know, the more you know. So you go from that, you graduate up to the better department stores, and then you've got the advent of some of places like Anthropologie, and it just kept going and just piqued my interest over and over and over again, until finally one day, I was 25 years old, I was still living in Tennessee, and I said, you know, I'm going to try this. What would happen if I started a little shop, a little boutique somewhere, something small, and all of these little lines, these little boutique-y, small, you know, beautifully crafted or like beautifully engineered product, how can I bring that into a space? But also I'm 25, so I have no money, I have nothing, right? So I went to my grandparents and I said, this is my idea. What can I do? Can you guys help me? Well, my grandmother was a florist, and she said, you sound like me. So you sound like me when I started my business when I was your age.
Wow.
And I went, okay. So she helped me, and she said, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to put this here, you're going to do this, you're going to put all these beautiful flowers everywhere, and you're going to get people's attention, and then you're going to stand there and you're going to talk, and you're going to show people why you love what you love. And so I went, all right, how am I going to do this? Well, I decided to go inside of a antique mall where they have booths. So I didn't have to go whole hog and get a freestanding store with all of that rent or whatever, and just start out in a booth space. Very, very small, that was not the norm back then. You know, you didn't have these multi-vendor stores back then unless they were antique stores.
Right.
So I started a little fragrance shop in there, and pretty much been doing it ever since.
Wow.
And then just got to know but then it was so fun growing up in that, right, as an adult.
Absolutely.
And just finding all the people who were doing what they were doing so well, but then going out into the world and getting to know those people too. Like those small business owners, and telling them why I loved and supported their line so much, and why I wanted to bring it into my own shop or into my own booth spaces. You know, I don't know, it just became like my little world, and I've always been in that world ever since I got into it. So even in the times that I've tried to leave that world, that family, something always pulls me back. Right. So here I am, all the way, 25 years later, back in it again. I'm back in it, man. I came back.
Well, and I've seen a little bit of that process, because I met you back when you had Regency Modern over in Old Town, mm-hmm. and beautiful store, very eclectic, just like
curated gifts.
Yeah,
but lots of bougie boutique stuff, small.
Yeah, and
small business.
I mean, like for instance, a candle. It would be $175 candle, but that was a damn good candle, mm-hmm. and something that you would want to give as a gift for someone else or for yourself, and something that you hold on to, even with the vessel afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's a luxury item, but to have your background as, a little child and just kind of working your way up, really observing what you're seeing around you, utilizing the resources you had, and that's where your whole antique, love of antiques have come. Her home is got a bunch of antiques and fine art pieces, and it's fabulous. Very Southern, very eclectic, but all very refined and pulled together.
That's a huge thing about me, growing up in the South too, because I'm not from here. I've lived in Scottsdale for 24 years, but I'm from Birmingham. So, growing up with my grandparents, I mean, when you spend the majority of your time with your grandparents, and my grandfather was a veteran in World War II, and so I mean, if we were driving somewhere, the Andrews Sisters were on. That King Cole was on. I mean, it was AM radio. There was no FM nothing going on in my grandfather's car, and he drove us everywhere. So it's just growing up with that. I like to call it the crunchiness of those old times. That the rough edges and the Victrola sounds and all of that. It inspired me when I started those little booths. One would pop up and then I go, I want to do another one and to do another one. Well, I started to incorporate antiques and vintage into that as well. So it wasn't just about fragrance. It was about the presentation of it. So then when I would do these vignettes to showcase a line, I would go and search for vintage and antique pieces. Well, then that knowledge started to get more refined as the years went on as well. And then I started having people come into my shops or booth spaces and say, wait, but is that piece for sale? And I went, oh boy, here we go. Now I'm going to go down going down the rabbit hole again, and not only with fragrance, but with vintage and antiques too. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty complex until you really stand away from it and say, what do I really want to focus on? What do I keep being drawn back to? And kind of what is that inner voice that keeps calling you back? Because I know you've tried to veer away from having the store and, having all the inventory and all the things.
Right.
But here you are again, creating your own line, your baby, everything from creative to production, and soon to be on the shelves. And let's see, I think we have a little sample of Fragrance Industrialists, if you want to open that up.
All right, so, and that makes a lot of sense, like what you're saying, where it kind of came full circle. So with my love of vintage and antiques and design and art and everything else, packaging design, then I have very much Art Deco. So this is a harken back and is definitely about where I'm from, about my, growing up with my grandparents, being from Birmingham, which is a very Art Deco forward city,
right?
Neoclassical Art Deco. So all of this is inspired by that.
It's gorgeous.
So you've got the history in the Art Deco design and the simplicity of the perfect cube. It's all those things. So it's like all the individual stores and all that inventory that you were talking about, all the where it got really big. It's almost like everything came back and I made it small and compact into a perfect little cube again. So this is my 25 years of history doing this into one little box.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's so you. For the listeners out there, it's like an Art Deco box with gold foil and navy blue, like almost black, and some black in there. And it's so elegant. But aside from all the beautiful aesthetics and the scents and all the things, what is it that really kept you going through this process? Because I want the listeners and the viewers to really get a sense of when you have passion about something, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, right, in the candle industry or the wine industry or the sports industry. It's having passion about something and really pushing yourself to learn as much as you can and diving in deep and really honing in on what it is that just lights you up. And so you could take the most mundane thing, but if you have passion behind it, you could sell it to anyone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something you're selling. It could just be, you could be an athlete.
Yeah.
But you just exude that passion and excitement that it just spreads, right? Stay tuned for more of this conversation. We will be right back after this important offering. When was the last time you looked at a photo of yourself and truly saw you, the real, authentic you? Have you forgotten the power, the beauty, the light that still lives within you? At Nicole Catherine Studios, I create portraits that go beyond the surface, capturing your essence, your story, your soul. It's time to rediscover yourself. So let's make it happen. Book your photography session now at NicoleCatherineStudios.com or DM me on Instagram.
Right. For me, it's about the things that I am super passionate about and that I can never get away from, no matter what's happening in the world or where I am in my own life. I am obsessed with a few things. I'm obsessed with fragrance. It's become where I liked it, then I loved it, and now it's an absolute obsession. I live and breathe fragrance. I love it. I surround myself with it. It doesn't matter if it's perfume, if it's candles, whatever. I love it because it brings joy and it brings transformation. You can be in the worst mood and you put on a beautiful candle and it is very transformative, and inside and out. So I love that aspect of it. Even just think about, walking through the streets of New York City, right? And the fragrances. Now, some are not that great, but right, okay, but
depends on where you're walking.
But some are
yes.
phenomenal. Like you smell like the roasted nuts, or like the ice cream truck, those vendors, or the falafel truck. I mean, those are they're so good. And then you're walking down Fifth, and you go into a boutique, and there are beautiful fragrances, candles or something in there. The amount of transformation that can go on in a 1 hour period in New York City is unreal, right?
Exactly.
So that's the thing that keeps me passionate. And the reason I mentioned New York is because I am obsessed with architecture.
Yes.
It is everything to me. It's another play on what I did with my brand. I had to put architecture into it because I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. I mean, the architecture in Birmingham is off the chain, and it's such a small hidden gem of a city in the U.S. People don't really know about it because most people haven't been there, don't have a reason to go there, right?
Right.
But the architecture is breathtaking. So I'm sure that growing up surrounded by all of that, and then as I graduated into being, a retailer and a wholesaler, having to go to New York very often, I just took all that in, and I'm still I will scroll until 3 a.m. looking at nothing but pictures of New York City on Instagram. It's terrible. It's like it's an addiction, Like my son will get up in the middle of the night and be like, Mom, stop. What are you looking at New York again? What? I can't stop. It's just part of it. But I feel like all of that is what I wanted to take out of me and put into this and really convey to people that beauty is all around you.
Yeah.
And just open your eyes and look at lines, look at what people who are visionaries and and artists, but in architecture and engineering and interior design and fragrance, it's all one thing.
It is, and it affects your overall mood.
It does.
And just your energy, and
it's all about energy.
Absolutely.
All of that radiates, the energy from beauty that's surrounding you, or beauty that you're breathing in, or beauty that you're eating, all of our senses. Like it's all, it's all enlightening.
And I think that's why we hit it off originally when we first met, because I used to do packaging design as a graphic designer before I got into photography, and the whole tactile thing, and just all of the senses being utilized, right?
Well, I think that's what drew me to you too. And when I saw your work as a photographer, I went, oh, She gets it. Nicole gets it. She's all about that, the vibe, that transformative vibe, or just having through a lens, showing people the beauty from within, or beauty that you didn't necessarily realize was there, but you brought it out.
Right.
It's no different than the sun hitting a building in a certain way, and all of a sudden it just like lights up an architrave. You're
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that can stop you in your tracks, stop your heart. Just, you have to gasp for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real thing. We are geeks when it comes to
Totally dorking out here.
aesthetics. And
I mean,
yeah.
I'm clearly dorking out over.
But I do the same thing. I have that on my, camera reel, just little vignettes little vignettes of just moments throughout the day that I see and feel the beauty of it, and it allows me to pause. And I know a lot of us don't have the luxury of doing that, but I think we all have the ability to really try to take more time to do that, because it's life-changing.
I totally agree with that. I love that word pause, like taking the moment to just realize the beauty that is right there in front of you.
Right.
Because our lives are so busy, we're just blasting through everything so quickly. Days are like, minutes into hours into days, and it's so fast. But when you take the moment to pause and just really see.
Right. Then you appreciate.
I mean, right? It changes your whole mood. You can go from just being, wow, in like the worst mood ever, to the best mood ever. But you just had to pause and reflect and appreciate. And, yeah.
And I actually did that last week. I went out and bought a bunch of essential oils and candles and cleaner and like just all random things, but really focusing on the aromatherapy.
Yeah.
And cleaned around my home and the studio and cleaned my car and did all the things, and
It changed you in the moment, right? It changes you.
I felt it was a tough week, and I did all those kind of literal and kind of symbolic cleansing, and it totally changed my mood.
Absolutely. Like those things, especially in what everybody's going through in today's world, because everything is just so hectic and so busy.
And so complex.
It's so complex, but those things are simple. They're simple. So when when you're just going, and everything's getting so complex and the tense, it's just so tense. And then you just take it down a notch, all the way down into, you got a good smelling cleaning product. I mean, you're right though. That's everything, because really those are the moments. Those are the moments in life. And not all this, extraneous wackadoo.
Right.
Those are the moments in life.
And really creating your environment, whatever that means to you, surrounding. And I'll never forget when Oprah back in the day said, it doesn't matter what you have, how much money you have, where you live, you should always make your space your own.
Always.
And I had the luxury of having, my father was a designer, so growing up, everything was vignetted throughout the house. But I had an appreciation for that. Mm-hmm. And while, we're here in the studio now, and it's very pared down and simplified, but to me, it's a place where I do my work, and this is where I bring calming energy to my clients.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that growing up with my grandparents in the South, and there's just a different way of living in the South, right? Especially when there is a generation gap between me and my sister and then my grandparents.
Right.
So it was a slower way, a different way. But I love how you said that you're growing up with your dad being a designer, and everything was vignetted. My grandmother could vignette 1,200 square feet of her house like nobody. I mean, everything was like a Hallmark moment, you know, just depending upon where you were looking in her house. But she did that with everything. She did that with she grew pansies. Her pansy garden was and I mean, it was what, like a foot in diameter maybe, but to her, I mean, it was a mile in diameter.
Right.
So yeah, I totally get that. You know, my grandfather was a woodworker, and everything in the house, that if it was something my grandmother was like, oh my gosh, you know, we don't have this, or it could be a cutting board, it could have been coasters, it could have been anything, like, you know, 3 hours later he'd be like, here you go. Right? But they would be these perfect, beautiful, and little coasters in this perfect little box, and then of course that had to go into a vignette on top of a little bar, you know, something like that, right? So me absorbing all of that, growing up in that very, I don't know, more, what's the word? It's like thoughtful.
Yeah.
More thoughtful times. You know, rather than, hey, I'm going to go to the discount store and go pick up some coasters. My grandfather comes out of the wood shop, you know, covered in sawdust, and goes, here you go, my dear. Here's your coasters. You know, but that was very impactful for me growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
And seeing that. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So you've got beauty from crafting, from making, from hands-on, and then watching my grandmother make these just off the chain floral arrangements, you know, just in the middle of the dining room table. So
wow.
I think that helped me a lot too, actually, when I would conceptualize something and then taking that into a physical world, into a physical product. I'm sure that's probably why I liked product design so much.
Absolutely.
It's because I watched them do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, do it themselves.
So I think a big takeaway from today is really appreciating, you know, people are always searching for their gifts, and, you know, I want to be this, and I want to do this, and I want to make money. And it's really, it's the focus should be about looking within and understanding the beauty around you, and really appreciating where you've come from, and leverage that. Find a way to really look within and bring it all together, because none of this happens overnight, and our passions are really something that's cumulative and builds and builds and builds upon itself.
Absolutely.
So
It's
taking
organic.
the time to explore new things, and your travels and your interactions with your friends and family, I mean, it's all related. So
Yeah, it's not about making money.
no.
It's absolutely not. It's about I always look at things like if there's a void, if I see a void somewhere, and I did it with my shops too, right? If there was a void and I could fill it with happiness, job done.
Right.
You know, same thing where I've been in the fragrance industry for so long, and I feel like there's just a little bit of a void. But now I've chosen to take that void that I saw, but maybe it was just what I had to offer, and put it out there, and it makes me happy. So that has to translate into some type of happiness or well-being for others. I hope that energy transfers.
100%.
And that's all I'm here for.
100%.
So.
That is the bottom line. If you do what you love and you're serving others, it comes back tenfold. Absolutely. And everyone that I speak with and everyone I interview, it's hands down, it always comes back.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. Like giving yourself for the greater good. You know, putting your soul out there to enlighten other people.
No matter what it is.
Hopefully, that's what we're doing. Hopefully.
And no matter what that is.
Absolutely.
Any industry, anything.
Greater good.
Yep.
Always.
I'm with you, sister.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing
welcome.
a little bit of your
Thank you
history.
for having me.
And Where can people find you when they want to take a look at your new fragrance line, Fragrance Industrialists?
I have my website. It's fragranceindustrialists.com. So you can go on there and, browse around. There's a whole description of everything. You can read all the notes, and it's great. It's perfect. So yeah, fragranceindustrialists.com. Yeah. Hopefully you'll come see.
All
come
right.
visit.
Well, thank you again. You're amazing, and it was so good to
you.
reconnect. And I can't wait to see what happens with the launch of your new line.
We'll see. It just launched just a few days ago, so
Yay.
We'll see. It's got a long way to go.
Wonderful. Okay, take it easy. Yes, so the She Spark podcast, thank you for joining both of us here today, and we look forward to our next episode. Can't wait to talk with you then.